The big lie that I want to talk about in particular, as I'm sure you've already guessed, is the present claim, which is not dominant in the US, but which is very powerful in the US and seems like it has a future in the US. The claim that Mr. Trump actually won the last presidential election. So this is, of course, I'm sure nobody will deny, a pretty big deal. When a sitting president says he will try to steal an election and then does try to steal an election, that's a pretty big deal. When a sitting president says he's going to lie and claim victory no matter what happens, and then he does lie and claim victory even when he loses, that's a pretty big deal. I would go further though and say that this is a big lie because it meets the historical tests of what a big lie is. It's not just that this is not true, right? It's not just that he actually lost by 7 million votes. It's not just that he lost 50-something court cases. It's not just that the lie is contradictory, right? I mean, if you follow American politics at all, you realize that the Republicans actually did rather well in these elections. It's only Mr. Trump personally who did poorly, and that which makes the claim of fraud basically impossible. But it's a big lie because it's about something significant, right? It's about the process of American democracy. It's about the credibility of the basic procedure of our democracy, which are the elections. But it meets higher tests too. It meets the Hitlerian test. That is to say, it's bold. By the end of December last year, Mr. Trump was talking about a historic landslide election victory. That is a very bold claim, given that he was decisively defeated. Or to cite an authority on all this, the most interesting student of totalitarianism, Hannah Arendt, it meets the Hannah Arendtian test of a big lie as well. Arendt talked about a lie so big that it rips the fabric of reality, right? So politics is full of lies, small lies, medium-sized lies, but a big lie is one that if you believe it, it rips the fabric of reality, because if you believe it, you have to believe in a number of other things as well to make, as it were, to make it true. In other words, you have to start believing in a conspiracy, right? If the American election was really stolen, then you have to believe there was a conspiracy involving the Democrats and the Republicans and the voting machines and the judges and a whole lot of other people, institutions, creatures, who knows, machines. You have to believe in that. And when you believe in that, you're already believing in us and them politics. You're believing that there's an us who has the secret truth and there's a them who doesn't believe it. And then a big lie enters the world when people take action on the basis of the big lie. And this has happened in the US in at least two ways. The first way is obvious. The people who stormed the American Capitol on the 6th of January of this year were acting on the basis of a big lie. Whether they believed it or not is hard to say. They probably did, many of them, but they were acting on the basis of a big lie. They were drawing blood on the basis of a big lie. They were profaning profaning America's basic institutions and its basic symbols in the service of the big lie. And once you do something in the service of the big lie has to be true, because the cognitive dissonance otherwise is too great. There's a more subtle, but unfortunately, perhaps a more important example of this, which is legislation. So congressmen and senators at the federal level of our government, of my government, reacted, many of them, to the big lie and violence in the service of the big lie by giving in, by voting in favor of the big lie, by accepting that violence was normal, by accepting that intimidation is normal, which is bad enough. But going forward, the big lie has been used now as the justification for legislation to make voting harder in the United States. So there are about 250 state laws now being discussed, the purpose of all of them is to make voting harder, right? So the lie, which is against democracy, is now being used as the basis for a justification to constrain democracy further.